I want you to do something right now that is going to be uncomfortable. I want you to think about who you were 5 years ago, not the circumstances, not where you lived or what job you had or what your life looked like on the outside. I want you to think about who you were on the inside, what you believed about yourself, what you refused to settle for, what you said you would never accept, the standards you had, the lines you swore you would never cross, the dreams you were still protecting, the fire that was still there. Now I want you to look at your life today and ask yourself honestly, what would that version of you think about the life you are living? Not the surface stuff, the real stuff, the relationship you're staying in that you know is not right, the work you're doing that you said was temporary 3 years ago, the dreams you quietly stopped talking about, the standards you lowered so gradually that you barely noticed it happening, the things you now accept without question that once upon a time would have been completely unacceptable to you. Be honest. Because this is not about shame. This is about waking up before more time passes. Standards do not drop all at once. That is the thing. If they dropped all at once, you would notice. You would feel the shock of it and course correct. But that is not how it happens. It happens in tiny increments so small that each one individually feels almost like nothing. You let one small thing slide, then another, then you adjust your expectations slightly downward to match the new reality, then you let something else slide from that new baseline, and then another. And each time the gap between where you are and where you once swore you would be gets a little wider. But because it happened slowly, you do not feel the gap the way you would if it had happened overnight. You just feel a vague dissatisfaction you cannot quite name. A sense that something is off, but you cannot put your finger on exactly what. That vague feeling is the accumulated distance between the standards you once held and the ones you are living by now. I have been there. There was a version of me that had clear non-negotiables, things I said I would never compromise on. And I meant it when I said it, but life has a way of presenting you with small compromises that feel reasonable in the moment. The job that is just for now, the relationship that is not quite right but not bad enough to leave, the habit that is not helping you but feels harmless enough, the conversation you keep not having because the timing never feels right, and you make the small compromise and move on and tell yourself it is not a big deal. But the small compromises compound. And one day you look up and the life you are living looks almost nothing like the one you once believed was yours to build. And the worst part is, you got there by 1,000 reasonable decisions. Decisions that each made sense at the time. Here is what dropping your standards actually costs you beyond the obvious. It costs you your self-respect, not dramatically, quietly. Every time you accept something you said you never would, a part of you registers the inconsistency. The inconsistency between what you believe you deserve and what you are settling for. And that gap, invisible to everyone around you, erodes something fundamental about how you see yourself. You start to feel like someone who does not follow through on their own commitments. Someone whose word to themselves means nothing. Someone who has been bought cheaply. And that feeling bleeds into everything. Your confidence, your ambition, your belief that you're capable of building the life you want. Because how can you fully believe in your ability to build something great when you have shown yourself repeatedly that you will accept something far less than great when it gets uncomfortable to hold the standard? The relationship piece of this is where I think most people feel it most acutely and are most reluctant to be honest about it. Because relationships involve other people and other people's feelings, and we do not want to be cruel or ungrateful or selfish. So we stay, we adjust, we tell ourselves things are fine or will get better, or that no relationship is perfect. And sometimes that is true in wisdom, but sometimes it is not wisdom. Sometimes it is fear dressed up as maturity. Fear of being alone, fear of the unknown, fear of hurting someone, fear of admitting that you have been accepting something that does not come close to what you actually need for a very long time. And the 5 years ago version of you, the one with the standards still intact, would not recognize who you have become, would not understand how you got there, would be asking you why you stayed so long and what exactly you were waiting for. The work piece hits differently for a lot of people because it is easier to justify. You took the job for the money, for the stability, as a stepping stone, as a temporary thing while you figured out the next move. And 5 years later, the stepping stone has become the destination and the next move never happened. And you are still telling yourself it is temporary, while a quiet part of you has started to believe that maybe this is just your life. That the thing you actually wanted to build is not really for someone like you. That the dream was a younger person's delusion, and the responsible adult version of you has made peace with practical. But you have not made peace with it. You have suppressed it. And suppressed things do not disappear. They just come out sideways as restlessness and irritability and that feeling of watching other people live the life you wanted. So what do you actually do with this? Because awareness of a problem without a path forward is just another thing to feel bad about. The first thing is to stop adding distance. Whatever you have accepted up until now is what it is. But today, you can decide that you are not going to lower the bar any further. That the version of you from 5 years ago still lives somewhere inside you, and you are going to start listening to them again. Not to punish yourself for the gap that has opened up. To begin closing it, one decision at a time. The second thing is to have the honest conversation you have been putting off. With yourself first. About what you're actually tolerating and why. Not the surface answer. The real answer. Are you staying because it is genuinely right or because leaving is scary? Are you doing this work because it is the path or because the alternative requires a courage you have not yet decided to find? Be honest. Brutally honest. Because the honest answer is the only starting point for real change. The third thing is to reconnect with the version of you that had the standards. Not to live in the past. To remember that that person is not gone. They're still in there. Quieter now, but still there. And you can start moving back toward them. Not all at once. Not by blowing up everything overnight. By making one decision today that that version of you would be proud of. One decision that honors what you actually believe you deserve. Because standards are rebuilt the same way they are lost, incrementally, one small decision at a time. The version of you from 5 years ago had something real, a clarity about what mattered. A refusal to settle that felt natural because it had not yet been worn down by the grind of living. You can get that back. Not by going back in time, by deciding that from here the standard rises instead of falls. That the next 5 years will produce a version of you that the current you would be proud of rather than shocked by. That the quiet compromises stop today. You have accepted enough. It is time to want more again. Not out of greed or entitlement. Out of respect for yourself and for the life you came here to live. That life is still available. But only if you stop settling for the one you accidentally ended up in. Raise the bar. Starting now. Starting today. And I want to speak directly to the people who are feeling the weight of this right now. The ones for whom this is not abstract. Who are sitting with a very specific thing in their life that they know they have been accepting way below what they once would have tolerated. I see you. And I want to say something carefully but clearly. The fact that you have accepted it until now does not mean you have to keep accepting it. The fact that you have let the standard slide does not mean the standard is gone. The fact that time has passed does not mean more time has to pass in the same way. Every single day is a new opportunity to make a different decision, not the decision to completely overhaul everything overnight. That kind of dramatic action rarely sticks and often creates more chaos than clarity. But the decision to take one honest step toward the life the 5 years ago version of you believed was possible. One conversation, one boundary, one application, one honest look in the mirror, followed by one honest action in the direction of something better. That is how it starts. That is always how it starts. Not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet decision made alone that nobody else sees. But that you feel immediately in your body is the first real movement in a long time. You know what that decision is. You have known for a while. The only question is whether today is the day you finally make it. I hope it is. The version of you from 5 years ago is still waiting. They never stopped believing you would find your way back. Do not keep them waiting any longer. Here's the simplest way I can put everything I have said in this video. You did not lose your standards because you are weak. You lost them because life presented you with 1,000 small moments, where lowering them felt easier than holding them. And you're human, so you took the easier path more times than you want to admit. But the easier path compounded into a life that does not feel like yours. And the hard path, the one where you hold the standard. Have the uncomfortable conversation. Make the scary decision. Refuse to accept what does not meet what you genuinely deserve. That path compounded leads somewhere completely different. It leads to a life that 5 years from now, a version of you will look back on with pride. You still have time to choose that path. You have more time than you think and less time than you want. So do not waste another day of it accepting what you know when your gut is beneath you. The bar goes up from here. Make sure it does.